The UFC is chock full of prospects that are not in the top 15 rankings of their respective divisions that could actually win a championship belt in the near future. So in this video, I'm going to be listing every prospect I can find that fits those parameters. And without further ado, let's get into the video. Now, before I begin, I just want to say that I recorded this video 3 times already. This is the 4th time, and I did not have my mic on for any of those recordings. So if I'm a little tilted throughout this video, that's why. But without further ado, unranked contenders who can win a UFC belt. The first division we're looking at is flyweights. The current champion is Alejandra Pantoja, and the 2 flyweight contenders I found are Joshua Van and Asu Amabayev. I mean, look at these guys. Joshua Van, insanely well-rounded. We haven't seen like his ground game tested to the elite level yet. He did get taken down a couple times in his last fight, but he was able to edge out a decision victory. He even got a round 2 TKO over Felipe Bunez pretty recently. And then we look at Asu Amabayev. He's well-rounded as well. Maybe his striking isn't as good as Joshua Van's, but his wrestling definitely dusts him out the water. And he's a true finisher. Yes, he didn't finish CJ Vergara in his last fight, but this guy goes out there and tries to hunt and fish for your neck for all 3 minutes. He is going to get that rear naked choke, whether you like it or not. And I think against any of these flyweight prospects, against any of these flyweight contenders, these 2 guys will do very good, and I think they have championships in their future. Next division we're looking at is the Bantamweight division with Sugar Sean O'Malley as the current champion, and I scouted 3 guys that he could potentially fight in the future. Daniel Marcos, 15-0 record. Nothing really jumped off the page for me when I watched his fight footage, but he does have good striking. His ground game hasn't been tested super well yet that we've seen, but ultimately, in a Bantamweight division, if you're just a good striker, you'll make it pretty far. We got Rinya Nakamura. This is the guy that I really think can be a bantamweight champion. Insane wrestling, insane grappling. His striking isn't all there yet, but I think if he can work out the kinks in his striking, it's going to be fine for him, because if he can just get the fight to the ground, it's GG's. Yes, we do have guys like Marab. We do have guys like Umar Nurmagomedov. But outside of those 2 guys, not really a lot of people in this division are trying to wrestle and grapple you, and I think Rinya Nakamura can stand out in that aspect. Then we go to Peyton Talbot. He's fighting Cameron Simon, I believe, in Atlantic City in the co-main event, and I think the winner of that should be here. I think Peyton Talbot's going to beat Cameron Simon. That's why I have him here. But he's a great striker, and he even has some submission skills if you want to take the fight to the ground as well. Against anyone in this top 15, Talbot has a good chance. I mean, he has knockout power and he has submission skills. So, I mean, what more do you need in a bantamweight fighter given the state of the division? You just need someone that's going to be able to stand and trade, and you need someone that's going to be able to withhold the takedowns and maybe turn the takedowns into a submission of their own. I think Talbot has those skills. I think Nakamura has the wrestling skills. I think Marcos has the striking skills. Ultimately, these guys you should look out for. Featherweight division is next. Ilia Topuria is the new recent featherweight king, and I scouted some prospects. We have Christian Rodriguez and Isaac Dalgarian. So they are fighting each other this Saturday, so the winner of that will stay on this list. The loser of that will move down a peg. But Christian Rodriguez, we've seen him in a lot of bouts so far in the UFC, and he is as well-rounded as it gets. Against a guy like Raul Rosas Jr., who we thought was going to spank him, he was able to withstand the jiu-jitsu from him, and he even took Raul Rosas' back himself. So that's great jiu-jitsu skills for Rodriguez. And he also possesses good striking, which we saw against Cameron Simon in his last bout. Isaac Dalgarian, on the other hand, maybe not the best striker, but his wrestling and grappling, he just manhandles people. And at the featherweight division, I mean, yes, there's people like Movsar Evloev, so who he would have to eventually get past. Arnold Allen, potentially. But like outside of those 2 guys that I'm looking at the list right now, there's not really a lot of big wrestling guys in the featherweight division. Just Movsar and the other guy I just said. Movsar and wow, who did I just say? Arnold Allen, the guy that's literally right below. Whoops. But still, Isaac Dalgarian, someone to look out for. Diego Lopez is the guy that I'm most excited for. Great striking and great jiu-jitsu. We thought he was only a jiu-jitsu player, but then he goes out in his last fight and knocks the guy out in round 1. So all around great game plan for Diego Lopez, but these guys, I can see them all being championship contenders in the future. Now we look at the lightweights, with the champion being Islam Makhachev. It's going to be hard for anyone to beat Islam Makhachev, honestly, but I found some prospects that could potentially make their way to a title shot in the next coming years. Mateusz Rebecki, it seems like he's been in the UFC for eons. He's 19-1, and he's one of the most well-rounded lightweights in the game right now. He's basically Islam Makhachev at just an earlier point in the career. Great wrestling, great grappling, and he potentially has better striking than Islam showed at this point in Islam's career too. So I think Rebecki is someone you definitely got to keep an eye out for. We look at Nazim Sadikov, 9-1-1. His recent win over Terrence McKinney really put him on the map for me, and great jiu-jitsu, great striking. He's willing to stand and bang. That's what I look for in a lightweight prospect, and Sadikov checks all those boxes. You know who else checks off the exact same boxes? The guy standing to his direct right? Manuel Torres, 15-2, coming off a first-round submission to Chris Duncan in Mexico City. This guy needs a ranked guy, and he needs him ASAP. Mike Davis, the only reason I put him on this list is because he's going to fight this Saturday, and he's amazing, but he just fights once a year. If he fought more than once a year, maybe I would be like, okay, Mike Davis is someone we should really be talking about. But the fact that he's like just not really that active in the UFC is hard to put him there. But great striking, great grappling, just great everything. Great all-around fighters for all four of these guys. All four of them could definitely make a run of the title in the future. Next division we're looking at is the welterweight division, with the current champion being Leon Edwards. Now, a guy like Leon Edwards, it might be easy to say that there are so many prospects that can take this guy on because he doesn't have the wrestling skill. You know, you just have to be a good grappler wrestler and you can beat Leon. Well, number one, that's not true. He beat Usman twice. Okay. Number two, we have people like Bilal and Shavkat right below Leon that fit that same description, so they could be the champion by the time these guys become champions, so that's also false. But regardless, these three welterweights that I have right here, Michael Morales, 16-0, Brian Battle at 11-2, and Miktabek Orobai at 12-1-1, they have all jumped off the page for me whenever I watch them fight. Brian Battle, at first, I thought he was just a points fighter, you know, not looking for a finish. He's just trying to get to the decision. But in his most recent bouts, he is going out there and he's going guns blazing, trying to get a finish. Like, this guy is proving something to me that I did not know he had. And he's fighting this weekend against Angelusa. But I think he's going to win that one. And if he wins that one, he's going to be 12-2. His next fight has to be against a ranked guy. Look at Michael Morales coming off a savage win against Jake Matthews, a fight that we really thought he was going to lose. And he didn't. He went out there and decisioned him. We thought Michael Morales, same thing as Brian Battle. We thought, but the opposite. We thought Michael Morales was like a finisher. And, you know, eventually, if he gets tested against real competition, how did those finishing skills, you know, measure up? But he did get, he went up against better competition. Those finishing skills diminished a little bit, but that fight IQ was there. So I think he can definitely make a run. Miktabek Orobai, he's only had one fight in the UFC. He was on short notice against Uros Medic. But still, in that one fight, he showed me enough that can convince me that he could be a UFC champion. He brought the guy down, just controlled him for almost 2 rounds, got the rear naked choke. It was easy work. It was easy work, and he was on a week's notice. So I'm wondering to see what Miktabek looks like on a full camp, if he actually has some striking to go with that grappling, because dang, he looked good. Now we go to the middleweights. This one is chock full of prospects. We're going to go bottom to top. Nurston Ruzabelov, only one fight in the UFC, but in that one fight, he basically starched the dude he was fighting. He showed some dog in that fight. He definitely has some good things in his future. It was a little hard to put him on this list because he only had one UFC fight, but in that one fight, he looked good. Gregory Robocop Rodriguez, notorious finisher, great jiu-jitsu, but he doesn't use it in fights. He just tries to strike in fights. He's a very entertaining fighter, but we have seen him chinned. That's my only cause for concern regarding him, but he's well-rounded. He can give anyone problems in the division. Ikram Aliskerov, 15-1. His only loss is to Hamzat in his entire career, and for good reason, because this guy does not lose. This guy's a savage. Good striking, good grappling, good everything. Just imagine Hamzat, but just like a dial worse. This is Ikram. They're both insanely savage. There's nothing more to say about that. Definitely a future title contender, if not champion. Michel Pereira, he's had 2 fights at middleweight. One of them was by choice. One of them was on short notice. And in those 2 fights, he got first-round finishes. So how do you not put a guy like Michel Pereira on this list when he just joined the division not too long ago and he's only had 2 first-round finishes? Definitely someone to keep your eye on. And obviously, Bo Nickel just lurking. 5-0. You can't not put him on the list. He's on the main card of UFC 300, and he's not even ranked. The UFC knows something that I think we all know it too, honestly. Like, this guy's going to be champion. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. He's a wrestler, but he has multiple knockout wins. That doesn't make any sense. He doesn't train striking, so how does he have knockouts? The fact that he does is scary. Next, we look at the light heavyweight division with the current champion being Alex Poatan Pereira. Now, who do I think can eventually give him problems down the line? Well, we got Ming Yang Zhang, 17-6. The only worry about Ming Yang is that his style is such that it's kill or be killed. He's going to go out there and get into boxing range as soon as he can, and he's going to try to land as many hooks as he can on your poor little face, which I found out the hard way by betting on Brenson Ribeiro. I thought Ribeiro was going to knock this dude out. I was wrong. This dude knocked out Brenson Ribeiro. My apologies for that bad pick. But still, in the light heavyweight division, if you just have knockout power and you're like a little durable, you can be in the top 5. Like, there's not a lot of wrestling and grappling you have to worry about besides Magomed Ankalaev, who, like, the UFC is just allergic to giving anywhere close to a title shot. Alexander Rakic, maybe. He's going to be fighting Yuri at UFC 300, so we'll get more of an idea about his style in that fight. And then Nikita Krylov, I guess, but by the time these guys get that high, I think he's going to be retired. He's been in the UFC for a minute, so we look at Rodolfo Bellato, very well-rounded. He should have been finished in his last fight. That's why I'm a little like, oh god, Rodolfo Bellato. But same thing with Ming Yang Zhang. He should have been finished in round 1 in his last fight, but he got the finish. Rodolfo should have been finished in round 1 in his last fight. He got the finish. Carlos Ulberg, he's probably my most potential prospect out of all of these guys because he just has one of the best striking games I've seen in the light heavyweight division, and that's saying something considering the entire division is full of striking killers. Maybe Poatan Pereira has better striking, sure, but he definitely is right up there, and he trains with Adesanya, so you don't think Adesanya is giving him pointers about Pereira? I mean, he definitely is, and his only loss was to Kennedy Nezachukwu, who was fighting this weekend, number 1. Number 2, he only lost because he got gassed out. He was winning that fight in the scorecard, so maybe we haven't seen all these guys tested on the ground, but they don't really have to worry about that. In this division, they can, navigate around those heavy grapplers. And last but not least, the heavyweight division. Yeah, guys, there's not really a lot to talk about here. We got Robelis de Spain, who fought at UFC Miami with a round 1 finish, but besides him, I'm really scraping the bottom of the Mick Parkin, Carl Williams, and Mohammed Usman. These are the only guys that I found that are not ranked that have some kind of a winning streak established more than 2 fights. It's kind of depressing, but I do have hope that the UFC just is bad at scouting heavyweights. Like, maybe there's just some really good monsters in Russia or Kazakhstan they haven't discovered. But as it currently stands, bro, the UFC heavyweight division is just... And that brings us to the end of another Fins Chats video. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe. Follow me on Instagram and X. Links are in the description. I'm just a guy trying to make MMA content, alright? If you support the kid by giving me a like or subscribe or a follow. And without further ado, make sure you have a great rest of your day. You savage.